Welcome to Talk Tickers. We're your shortcut to understanding today's critical earnings calls.
And today we are diving into EV Holdings' first quarter 2025 update.
Our goal here is pretty straightforward.
Right.
Pull out the essential information so you get a clear picture of their progress and where they might be headed.
Let's start with the numbers. In Q1 2025, EVE put $45 million into program development.
And that covers quite a range, right? The EVTOL itself, services, support solutions.
Exactly. And also their urban air traffic management software. SG&A expenses came in just under $8 million for the quarter.
Which led to a net loss.
Yes, a net loss of $49 million for Q1.
Okay, let's talk cash flow. Operations used about $25 million.
That's right. Though, interestingly, they noted it would have been closer to $40 million if an invoice hadn't shifted timing-wise. So a bit of a temporary working capital bump there.
And where did they end the quarter in terms of liquidity?
They finished Q1 with $288 million in cash. Plus, they have undrawn standby facilities, bringing total liquidity to $411 million.
And importantly, how long do they expect that to last?
They're projecting that this current liquidity will see them through operations right into 2026.
Okay, shifting to the commercial side, the pre-order book.
Still holding strong, roughly 2,800 units.
Which translates to quite a large potential value.
Nearly $14 billion based on list prices. And it's not just the aircraft. They've also got letters of intent, LOIs, from 14 customers for their EVE Tech Care services.
Ah, yes, the aftermarket suite.
Right. Those LOIs represent potentially up to $1.6 billion in future revenue. Keep in mind, those are non-binding at this stage.
Understood. Okay, so a solid foundation financially, at least through 2026, and a hefty order book. Let's dig into the actual development progress. The prototypes must be key.
Absolutely. They're continuing ground tests on the full-scale engineering prototype. This is the one without the cabin or cockpit installed yet.
And this is the prelude to the first flight later this year.
Precisely. It's all about validating the models, the component tests they've already done. They need to make sure it all works together on a full scale.
Any specific systems they've tested recently?
Yes, they reported successful testing of the pusher motor, the one in the aft section. Importantly, the results matched what they saw in the lab.
Good sign. Consistent results.
Very much so. And now they're applying that same testing process to the lifter motors before they get installed.
So the flight tests.
Yeah.
What's the plan there? Start slow.
Definitely. Initial flights will be hover tests. They'll gradually increase power, increase altitude, then move to partial transition flights, and eventually full transition from vertical lift to forward flight.
Makes sense. And I heard mention of something called the Iron Bird. What role does that play?
Ah, the Iron Bird. Think of it as a ground-based skeleton of the aircraft's critical systems. It's a full-scale rig integrating flight controls, hydraulics, avionics, everything needed to fly but bolted to the ground.
So you can test how everything interacts without actually flying.
Exactly. It ensures system-wide functionality. Plus, you can run it hard to understand material fatigue, which feeds into maintenance planning and can even help reduce certification costs down the line. It's a really powerful tool.
Okay, and besides the hardware, the digital side is moving too. Simulators.
Yes, digital systems are advancing. They're using flight simulators extensively to validate the fly-by-wire control laws. Making sure the software translates pilot inputs correctly.
And pilot comfort, ergonomics?
That too. Developing the pilot interface, making sure it's intuitive. They also showed a digital rendering of the cockpit designed for one pilot, 4 passengers, plus luggage space. The focus seems to be on operational efficiency and making maintenance easier.
Right. Let's move towards the aircraft that will actually go through certification. Supplier engagement sounds like it's increasing.
Significantly. They mentioned parts are already being produced for the first of 5 conforming prototypes. These are the ones built to the exact certification standards.
What kind of parts are we talking about?
Things like the nose fuselage section, the lightning system components, actuators, seats, the windshield. Key elements are starting to come together.
And they have the tools to build these. Carbon fiber molds, autoclaves.
Yes, the tooling is in place. The specialized molds and the autoclaves, basically high-pressure ovens for curing composites, are ready.
So assembly of that first conforming prototype is on the horizon.
It is. They're targeting the second half of 2025 to begin assembly. Flight testing for certification is then planned to kick off early next year, 2026.
And they're assembling these near Embraer's engineering hub.
Correct. Inside Embraer's main facility in San Jose dos Campos. That proximity to Embraer's deep engineering bench is a big advantage. Faster problem solving, easier knowledge sharing.
How many of these conforming prototypes are they planning?
The plan is for 5, primarily for the certification campaign. They mentioned a possible 6th if needed, and these will look very much like the final commercial aircraft.
Okay, let's circle back to the financials briefly. That higher R&D spend in Q1, it seems linked to this push on prototypes and suppliers.
Absolutely. It reflects that accelerated development pace, more engineers involved, both internal and from suppliers, and they expect to maintain roughly this level of R&D spending for the rest of the year.
And the cash burn guidance for the full year remains unchanged despite that Q1 invoice timing.
Correct. They're sticking to the $200 million to $250 million range for full-year cash consumption. The indication is they'll likely land toward the lower end of that range. Shows some discipline in managing the spend.
Which ties into the liquidity lasting through 2026. But they're already thinking about 2027 funding.
Yes, planning is underway. They mentioned multiple options are being considered. It shows proactive financial management, even with a decent cash runway currently.
Now that order book, 2,800 is a big number, but they're LOIs. What's the focus now?
The focus is definitely shifting towards converting those LOIs into firm binding orders. But it's not just about orders. They're actively working with key customers globally to figure out the where and how.
Meaning the actual operating locations, infrastructure.
Precisely. Identifying the first cities, working on the necessary infrastructure partnerships, energy supply, building the whole ecosystem around the aircraft.
And part of that ecosystem is the EVE Tech Care Service and Support offering. $1.6 billion potential revenue is eye-catching.
It certainly is. It highlights their focus isn't just selling planes, but providing the whole operational package. Reliability and optimized operating costs are crucial for this market.
And contracts are already in place with some customers.
LOIs are in place with 14 customers for those aftermarket products. EVE is planning to guarantee the service directly, ensuring operators get the support they need.
What about training pilots and mechanics?
They have a partnership with ECTS, that's the Embraer CAE joint venture. The first data package has already been delivered to ECTS to start developing the training program.
And the software side of services?
Also under active development. They're working with potential operators to make sure the service software is user-friendly and genuinely helps manage operations efficiently.
One last technical point. The battery in the current prototype isn't the final one.
Correct. It's a different design, different part number, though it uses similar cell technology from the same supplier.
Why do that?
It allows them to learn from the prototype testing performance, durability, even manufacturability aspects, and feed those learnings directly into the final commercial battery design. It's an iterative approach.
So summing up for listeners tracking EVE. Significant progress on the physical prototypes, manufacturing prep is underway, financials look managed within guidance, and there's a clear strategic focus on services and the broader ecosystem.
That captures it well. Key things to watch are that upcoming first flight of the engineering prototype and the start of assembly for the conforming prototypes later this year. The continued focus on converting LOIs and building out the operational side is just as critical.
All right, let's shift gears to our This Is Not Financial Advice segment. Time for some outrageous but plausible trade ideas based on today's discussion.
Okay, I've got one. Consider looking into companies that are focused purely on vertiport infrastructure development.
Ah, the landing pads for these things.
Exactly. If EVE, or frankly any major eVTOL player, gets certified and starts flying commercially, the demand for places to take off and land in cities could explode. Investing early in specialized vertiport companies could offer huge upside.
But huge risk too, right?
Yeah.
Very early stage.
Absolutely. High risk, high potential reward. It's a bet on the whole urban air mobility market taking off literally.
Okay, my turn. How about a paired trade? Go long EV holding, assuming you believe in their trajectory.
And short.
And short, a traditional helicopter manufacturer, specifically one with limited exposure or investment in the eVTOL space.
The disruption play.
Right. The bet is that successful eVTOLs like EVEs could significantly eat into the short-range passenger transport market currently dominated by helicopters, especially in urban environments. It's a bet on EVE succeeding and displacing older tech.
Interesting hedge. Again, purely hypothetical.
Absolutely. These are just thought experiments, not recommendations. Always do your own expensive research before considering any investment.
Couldn't agree more.
So, our deep dive today shows EV holding pushing forward on multiple fronts: hardware, finance, services, and the overall ecosystem. Key milestones like the first flight and conforming prototype assembly are definitely on the radar.
And the maintained financial guidance alongside growing service traction adds important context.
Remember, everything we've discussed is for informational purposes only. Please consult EVE Holdings' official investor relations materials and SEC filings for the full picture.
And think about what aspects of this whole urban air mobility shift intrigue you the most. It's a fascinating space to watch.